in Amsterdam. In this video, I want to share with you the 5 culture shock moments that I have experienced since I first started working in the Netherlands 2.5 years ago. In the last 2.5 years, I have worked for 2 very different kind of companies. I worked for a commercial international organization, and I have also worked for a predominantly Dutch organization, which is where I'm currently at right now. So without further ado, let's get started on the first culture shock that I experienced. The first thing that really took me by surprise was when I first started job hunting. When you are looking through job ads, it's very likely that you'll come across wording such as this: upon positive evaluation, we'll offer you a permanent contract, or perhaps your contract will be extended for another year. The 1-year temporary contract is in fact a very common practice in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, I feel that there is a genuine intention to keep you on as a long-term staff member or a permanent staff member, and that 1 year is really seen more as a probation period. Whereas in Australia, a lot of the contract roles really are contract roles, and there is a hard end date, either because of funding constraints or project constraints. Just keep that in mind if you are also in the same position, you're job hunting and you're seeing this a lot. Don't let that put you off. You can also always ask the employer during the interview stage what their long-term ambitions are for that position and whether they have any intention of keeping you on as a long-term staff member. The second thing that I experienced a bit of culture shock over was sick leave in the Netherlands. I'm not sure how it is in your country, but in Australia, every employee is legally entitled to only 10 paid sick days a year. If you're in the situation where you need more than 10 days of sick leave, then you have to take the subsequent sick days as unpaid leave. In the Netherlands, an employee is entitled to sick pay for the first 2 years of illness, which prevents them from working. This sick pay must be at a minimum 70% of the employee's current wages. This sick leave not only covers physical illness like catching a cold or a flu or a more serious physical condition, it also covers mental health conditions or mental health illness, such as, for instance, needing to go on stress leave or burnout leave. It's just so mind-blowing to me that here people take your mental health just as seriously as your physical health. The fact that people can go on burnout leave and be paid during that period and be supported to recover and to come back to the workplace is truly amazing. You can't choose how often you get sick. You can't choose how long you are sick for. It takes away the stress and the guilt that people often feel when they fall sick and they need to take time off work to actually recover. You know, conversely, in Australia, I feel the 10-day sick leave rule, it puts this kind of expectation on the worker to still go to work and turn up even when they're not feeling 100% well. I know from personal experience, I think in the whole 10 years of working full-time, I have not taken more than 10 days of sick leave in total. I would literally go to work feeling terrible, feeling really sick, and feel that I had to be there. The third culture shock that I experienced is in relation to pronouncing Dutch colleagues' names. This is more of a language-related barrier, not maybe Netherlands specific, because you would encounter the same issue if you had to work abroad in a different country where they speak a language that is not your native language. But in my case, it's something I really struggled with. Before I moved to the Netherlands, believe it or not, I had never met a Dutch person. I had never come across a Dutch name. I knew nothing about the Dutch language as well. In my current role, I work, as I said, in a predominantly Dutch workplace, and many of my colleagues have very traditional Dutch names. And my role requires me to meet a lot of new people on a regular basis. Therefore, it is very important that I get people's names right and I remember it as quickly as possible. I remember my first day being so challenging because everyone was coming up to me to introduce themselves. At least for me, it's not possible for me to remember 20 names as it is in one go, but when it's a name that you're not immediately familiar with or that you've never heard of before and that you don't even know how to spell, that can be like an added layer of complexity. And it's also very embarrassing if someone says, hey, yeah, just send me an email when you want to catch up, or can you set up a calendar invite with me? And you wouldn't even begin to know how to spell this person's name. So my only advice here is, if you're new to the Netherlands, then it really does help to familiarize yourself with the Dutch alphabet at least, because that will give you a lot of guidance on how to pronounce Dutch people's names. And to just give you some very like small general pronunciation tips in this video, names that start with J would sound like they start with a Y. For instance, Joop, Joost, Jan, Jeroen, Joris. Just realize they're all guys' names. If there is an E at the end of someone's name, in English that would be silent, but in Dutch that has an sound. So for instance, Suzanne, it's spelled the same way as in English, but you would pronounce that Susanna. There are also many other names that are spelled exactly the same way as in English, but they are pronounced slightly differently because the Dutch alphabet has a different pronunciation. So for instance, Eva is pronounced Eva, Iris is pronounced Iris, Peter is pronounced Peter, and so on and so forth. There's many other names like that. If in doubt, I think there's nothing wrong with just asking your colleague how to pronounce their name. No one's going to get offended by that. People would understand, and I think people would appreciate the effort that you put in to pronounce someone's name correctly. The fourth culture shock that I experienced when I first started working here was how seriously people take summer vacation. So literally in the Netherlands and in many other parts of Europe, work literally comes to a standstill between the periods of, I would say, end of June to start of September. And then everything resumes again from September until the Christmas break. And this is not limited to just office workers. It also includes tradespeople who will not take on new jobs during the summer period. And it also includes shopkeepers, particularly in the areas that are not so touristy and more for locals. It's very normal to see shopkeepers put up signs on their windows and say, I'm on leave for 3 to 4 weeks. I won't be open during this period. In Australia, as you would know, our summer period coincides with the Christmas period, so we only really get one big break a year. And I certainly have never seen, even during the Christmas period, shopkeepers saying, I am on leave for 3 to 4 weeks and I'm not going to be open for that long. I've never seen that in Sydney or bigger cities. You know, I think it's great that you get 2 big breaks throughout the year. I do actually think it makes people a little bit more efficient, because you know that you have to work really hard for 2 to 3 months and then you're going to have a big break to look forward to. So that's always really, really nice. Final one, it's a little bit complex. I'm going to try to explain it as best as I can. It's in relation to my shock at seeing mothers returning to work 3 months after they have given birth. So firstly, I do not want to get into the nitty-gritty details of maternity leave and parental leave in the Netherlands. I haven't gone through this process myself. For the purpose of this video, I will just share with you that in the Netherlands, for every child that you have, the pregnant employee is entitled to 16 weeks of paid maternity leave. Pregnant employees are required to go on leave 4 to 6 weeks before their due date, which means they have about 10 to 12 weeks left of leave after they give birth. There are also some additional leave arrangements for both parents. I'm not going to go into those, but essentially what I'm trying to say is that it is totally normal for mothers to return to the workplace around 3 months after they have given birth. Now, I know this really depends on where you come from. For me, it was a huge shock. In Australia, there is a legal requirement to provide 12 months of maternity leave to an employee. It's not that those full 12 months are paid. That's certainly not the case. I wish it was so, but it's not the case. But because of this legal requirement, it's very normal for women to go on maternity leave for at least 6 months, if not the full year. And perhaps 16 weeks is considered to be very normal or even generous compared to your home country. But for me, it was just like a really big shock to see my colleague back so soon after I said bye to her when she was pregnant. Personal experience or story that I can share with you is that when this said pregnant colleague was about to go on maternity leave, I asked my team whether we should maybe plan like a goodbye baby shower for her, because we probably weren't going to see her for a while. And my team member was like genuinely confused by my suggestion. He was just like, well, she's gonna come back soon. Like, she's gonna come back in a few months. So I don't think it's necessary. I think it's too much. It's too over the top to plan a party. And I kind of understand that now, because she really was back very soon after she left. And to be honest, I can't believe that women are not demanding more. To send a 3-month-old baby into daycare for me would just be so heartbreaking, because they're so tiny. I've always assumed that if I were to have a baby, I would take at least 1 year off to take care of the baby and also to physically and emotionally recover. 3 months just seems like such a short amount of time for me, but again, I realize that that's all relative, and this is all because I've been brought up in a different country with a different set of cultural norms around maternity leave. So that's it. Those are all my 5 culture shock moments. I hope you found those interesting, and maybe some of those were surprising, or maybe some of them were not so surprising. Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are about that. If you like this video, then as always, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't done so already, please make sure you hit the subscribe button down below if you want to watch more videos like these. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.